Welcome. You are now at another episode of the BTonez podcast. And anytime you come join us here, you are going to receive a good word. And today is like a day like none other because I have two very special guests. I've known these brothers all their life, and they're practicing selling of insurance and building their business as entrepreneurs while having their day jobs, while managing their families. And they're both in very unique positions, one being a new father and one being on the verge of getting married. We're going to talk a little bit about those things too. But first thing I want to do is do a round of introductions. So I'm going to go to Raphael first.
Well, my name is Raphael Jones. I've been in insurance now. I've been an insurance broker since 2010, so about 14 years. I've been in the insurance business for, I would say, 15 years because even before I was an actual agent, I was learning about the business under a guy, Damon Ketchens, who I still keep in contact with to this day. I'm currently based in upstate New York in the Hudson Valley.
Let's move on to my second guest who, I don't really know too much about this dude. You can see the T at the end of his last name. You might put two and two together, but I'm going to go ahead and introduce my little brother, Tramel. Brandon, go ahead and introduce yourself. Talk a little bit about what you do for your day job and your side hustle and how life is as a new father.
Okay. All right. So my name is Tramel. My 9 to 5, I am an IT consultant and I specialize in web design and business development. I'm also a business analyst. I don't even like to call it a side job. I'll say what I do alongside my main job would be I sell life insurance, and that also allows me to sell annuities as well. So we can get into that. My son just turned 2 in May, so I'm a new dad. I'm an older dad, so I just got to stay in shape. So I'm trying to do some cardio every single day.
Exercise is certainly good for you no matter how old you are, and I like to see the fact that you're participating in that. Let's move towards a business aspect first, and then we'll go towards the family side later. So Raphael, I'm going to pose a question to you. What was basically your determining factor for moving into selling insurance, and what are some of the testimonies or benefits from you doing so? Because I've heard a lot of the work that you've done has been very, impactful to different people who you sold insurance to.
Back in, I would say, 2009, I was working part-time doctor's office in Clinton. I was doing that in the evenings, and in the morning, I was making calls for a guy named Damon Ketchens, like setting up insurance appointments. And when I concentrated, I realized how good I can be, and I started building a rapport with these people over the phone. Some of them would say, "Hey, are you going to be the one that comes meet with me tomorrow?" And I just think in my mind, I was like, could I actually go up to this building, into this government building and sit in front of somebody? At the time, my self-image wasn't high enough to even believe that I could walk into a government building and talk to somebody who looked like one of my parents. The more I kept doing it, I was like, hey, why don't I at least take a shot at it? And I remember I went, it took me like 2 months, like I studied for my license, and it was a good thing because I went to Ohio to visit my homegirl. It was a snowstorm in DC while I was in Ohio. So it gave me time like to really study while I was out in Ohio. Then I came home and it was still a snowstorm. It actually snowed again. So there was no power. So literally, I would just once the daytime, I would open up my curtains and I just studied all day. Finally got my, passed my test for my exam. And then I remember I already knew the part about setting up appointments. The guy who taught me already had a list for me. So I set a ton of appointments for myself. And the first day I went out, I had 8 appointments and I sold 5 people. It was unbelievable. So I was like, hold on. I was like, is this what I'm going to do for a living? Since then, I've had it's been up to that. It hasn't just been we've been rolling ever since. I've had to learn so much because my parents were educators. So there was no business. There was no, they didn't have home-based business. So I didn't really understand about the taxes and everything. So I've dealt with tax issues, consistency issues, not getting I call it fuzzy brain, when you get a big check and then the first thing you just you're walking around in days, especially in your 20s. You're now I don't even have to work anymore. You know what I'm saying? It wasn't until 2015 when I just really was I was like, this is what God gave me my hands to do. This is what I got to do. So that was when I started focusing and putting it all together. I got to be consistent every single thing within every single thing that I do. And I went through some situations. I'm like, all right, how can I make this and be just as consistent and just as reliable as somebody with a job? Around 2019, I got comfortable. I met who's my wife now, who we're getting married in August, but we're legally already married. But so when I met her and she said, when you come to visit New York, these are the expectations. This is how it's going to be. You might as well treat it like a vacation because that's how you're going to spend. When I come to DC, this expectations are the same way. I'm just letting you know up front. And I was like, I always got to have some disposable income income and some disposable cash. So that made me lock into the next level. And I remember a couple of months into us dating, I was like, oh, I'm locking into a whole nother level. I've never been on this level of locking in. And then the pandemic hits. I didn't know what to do. I was like, oh man, I got to start from scratch. I had built up a ton of clients over the last 10 years before the pandemic hit. So I was calling my clients doing increases. Also during the pandemic, I decided that I was finally going to do what I said and work for State Farm. So I went to start working with State Farm, and then it was like, I don't want to say slavery. It was hardcore work. Like, you got there at 8, he was like, boom, they had cameras over your head watching you. And sometimes I would get on my phone and start texting. He would call me like, yeah, why are you on your phone? He was like, I need you to log in. Man, I was like, I never thought I would be, because you got to think, for the last 10 years, I've been free to move however I want to move. And And Brad, as you know, I was mentoring in the evenings. I sacrificed the insurance business so I could mentor in the evenings, because for a while I wasn't really feeling fulfilled. So for me to come and somebody over my shoulder like, yeah, you need to do this, it was a lot of manipulation, and I kind of knew it. But what I learned from them is they had the CRM and they had a system, and everything ran on systems. What they're paying me, I'm not really benefiting from the system, but I understand if you own one of these State Farm offices, these systems are airtight. So I started thinking to myself, what if I applied the systems that I learned at State Farm and just applied it to my own business? I was like, could I do the same thing, if not better? On my lunch breaks, I started calling William Smith. He would tell me, yeah, we're doing this. So then after, I would say about 2 weeks to talk to him on the phone, I was like, you know what? I'm going to quit on September the 15th. I was like, September the 15th is going to be my last day. I'm not giving him no 2 weeks or anything, because if I give him my 2 weeks, he's going to tell me to go home that day. We don't need you no more, because he's going to be so shocked. So I was like, I'm going to wait till my check hits on September 15th at midnight, and then I'm going to send in my resignation letter. So I wrote my resignation letter maybe 4 weeks ahead of time. And then on September 15th, I went through with the plan. My wife had a work conference in California. So I went out there with her. And while she was at the work conference on that day, I literally just calling through names all day, just setting appointments for myself, just learning so I could try and fail. Like, all right, I would listen back to my calls like, that sounded ridiculous. I got to get better with this. When you're in the insurance business, you're going to have to pivot a million times, because they're going to keep changing things. Laws and rules are going to keep changing. Mm-hmm. Now, the first 10 years of my life, of doing this business, I was going into government buildings and meeting with people in their cubicle or their office. Or sometimes every once in a blue moon, they're home if it was a big enough case. So to go to that, now everything's online. You can charm people when you're face to face with them. Over the phone, you can't do that. It's like, yeah, they have just as much power as you. At any point in time, they can press the button and be like, I'm done. So I kind of had to relearn the way. But what helped me do that is selling home insurance and car insurance at State Farm over the phone. Mm-hmm. I was like, if I can do it over the phone to these people, why can't I do it with life insurance?
Raphael, you hit on 15 different power principles for hustling and grinding and motivating, keep going. Because I heard in the beginning you talked about your thought about your self-perception, not being able to walk up into buildings and talk to people that look like your parents. I heard you when you spoke about having to lock in on information because of the desperation of the time you were in. And then the time that the snowstorm afforded you by having the lights out, you were just able to study by the sunlight, just buckling in. I know the hustlers definitely heard you about the different phases you went to, the different levels. You moved to a job at State Farm to where you thought you were going to be secure, but the situations were very different. And even though you didn't like it there, you developed a plan for your exodus up out of there. And then the work that you did in there prepared you to have the work ethic when you left. So everything you went through prepared you for the next phase and for the next phase and for the next phase. And I'm loving to hear that, because, there may be somebody watching who is unaware of how close they might be to their very next phase, doing work right now that they really don't enjoy, they really don't want to do, but it's causing them to put together a plan for their exodus, and because that's the kind of situation I'm in. So I want to applaud you for that, because I want anybody listening to develop that plan. And I've heard this statement, it's like, nothing will make you develop or start a job that you love better than a job that you hate. But I want to pass the mic over to my brother and just talk a little bit about your decision to jump into insurance selling of your own. What led you into that decision? Where are you currently working? What were some of the decisions you had to make, either financially or familial wise with your family, that caused you to say, you know what, I need to pick this up?
All right, so I'm trying to figure out when I even started life insurance. So I think it was like a referral. It was a girl named Katari Mundit. But she tried to sell me life insurance. And I was like, this might be something that I can just do it for myself so I can double dip. So I'm all about like, how can we save money? How can we make money? Because if you're saving money, then there's still money in your pocket. So you're making money. It's that same concept. So when she came to my house trying to sell me something, I'm like, can I do this for myself? And it made sense. I love talking to people. I'm very much an extrovert. I like to be out of the house. So I don't ever have like house functions. I'd rather go to someone's function and I'll do something. I'll give you whatever you need. I'd rather be out the house talking to people. That's where my mojo comes from. So I was like, this might be something I could do. So I hit up Raphael because I knew he was a full-time life insurance agent. At the same time, I was doing web development at Department of Justice, and I did the cardinal sin, which is don't stay at a full-time job more than 3 years. If you're looking to boost your salary, you want to move every 3 or 4 years because that's when you're going to get your huge jumps in salaries. If you stay at the same job, you might get like a 3%. Sometimes it's even 1%. It depends where you are. So if you're looking for double-digit raises, you got to move. I did not do that. I was relaxed in my job. So I didn't really care about the pay too much. But I was like, I want extra money. So I was looking for a side job. Brad and I know that we tried multiple MLMs. I always thought I was going to do great at that. With that, it kept me in a 1099 status. With the 1099 status, for those that don't know, it allows you to do tax write-offs. So therefore you can lower your taxable income, which is huge. So I always wanted that 1099 status, but I've always fell into MLMs to keep it. So I was like, let me try something different. I was like, I'm either going to go real estate or I'm going to life insurance because they both have good commission checks. Real estate has its own, like you have to pay monthly and annually for the fees, and life insurance has less fees. So I was like, let me try out the life insurance route. I had to study for it. So I just wanted to lock in, study, and ace it, which I did. And so once I got the job myself, I sold to like my immediate family and whoever I could, and to some friends, and then it kind of like fizzled. Then the pandemic happened, and I kind of just like, I kept up my license. I didn't let it expire, but I just like, I couldn't find people to really sell to. I didn't have leads. Years go by. I started, I hit up Raphael and he was like, yeah, you should holler at Will. Will has leads, you can sell those, and you already work in the government and we sell to people in the government. So check it out. So I started with Will in November 2023, and I've already made quadruple 10 times more than I did in the last 6 years of having my life insurance license. So this was a huge move, a financial move, and I give all that to Raphael and God, because he led the way. God will direct your path, and you just need to follow. And so I put myself in a position by getting the license, and then he can just open doors from there. So we got to do something. We got to pick ourselves up, and implement something, and God can bless. Because I feel like I just picked life insurance and I just ran with it, and he's just been blessing me.
It's always good to bring the Most High into the conversation, because without him, none of us earn anything.
Right.
I always tell people, I was like, we don't have the power to start and stop our own heart or to breathe voluntarily. We do it involuntarily, even while we sleep. So he is the provider for everything. And I'm glad to hear how he led both you brothers into new aspects of your life that will allow you to multiply and grow. Because one of the things that I definitely teach here and through a lot of my colleagues is the kingdom mindset, where it's always about multiplication, expansion, which is the reason for this platform. We bring various brothers in to talk about their areas of expertise so that more people will become aware of things that they might not have known. I didn't know a lot of stuff in regards to insurance. After speaking with my brother about several conversations, I had made a decision to at least get some, because at first I wasn't even interested in getting it because my mindset was it's just going to be another monthly cost. When you look at the importance of having it and the security that it brings and the reprieve that it'll allow to your family for certain instances, then you want to make sure that you have it. Raphael I seen him hustling and making moves on the mentorship level, which I really thought was profound and impactful, because anytime you can frame the mind of a youth and help them make decisions and not make mistakes that you made, it's a positive thing. And the word actually gives credit to that. If you lead a young brother in the righteous path of doing what he should be doing, that'll cover a multitude of sins. That's scripture. That's written. So the fact that you were able to do that, and Brandon, I know, does his own ministry in his regard. I know you two actually had a ministry together. And now I'm just thinking about that. Y'all want to talk a little bit about the ministry that y'all had going on?
It was called Wake Up Call.
Yeah. Wake Up Call. It's still online, isn't it?
It's still on Facebook. People from other countries still comment on it to this day. I'll get a notification on a comment, and that's what it was supposed to do. We were putting a seed out into the world, those positive vibes.
That's right. And the seed always yields abundance if you wait for the proper season. So the Most High can still bless on that. Because I know I've had the same thoughts. I put stuff out there ministry-wise. I'm wondering if anybody's watching it. But then you'll get a message. And you're like, okay, well, it made one impact.
Like our grandfather would say, C.D. Brooks, he would say, one soul is worth like the world.
Yeah.
So like that one light, whoever you made that for, they could have saw it. So you just gotta keep that mindset. I don't care how many views it got and what year it hits, because we did that back when
2016, 2017.
Wow. Because I was getting married while doing all those videos, so I had a lot going on, and we still pushed it through. Yeah, so the focus of that, we call it a wake-up call. It's easy to get caught up in your routine, and in your routine, you might do devotion, you might pray, you might do this, you might do that, but it's easy to get caught up in worldly things and to not focus on God might come back tomorrow. My number might be called in an hour. We have a message every single video. So we started off with the first videos to be the fruits of the spirit. And then we branched off after we finished those into different topics that the everyday person is dealing with. So we had a host of videos, and one went viral, and that was the one that Pop-Pop's voice that you did. And you were in, actually. Yeah.
I'm gonna actually post the link to the channel just so people can find it, because the information is still out there. Leaning back into the spiritual lesson side of it, Raphael, I want to bring it back to you. What are some of the principles or things that you've encountered being a man that's about to get married that have kind of structured your life and how you are right now to make you better?
The first thing, I think one of the things I realized from mentoring is that it was selfless. I was pouring out into these kids. It's like, all right, if one of them needed a skateboard, and I might not have had the money to get, because I didn't realize how expensive skateboards were, but I know he's been working hard. He's been trying to improve. I'm like, all right, I'm gonna do that. I tried to take him to different places and just try to expand their minds. And it was hard, and I got pushed back. Some of the kids were like, F this, I'm not trying to do this. Don't call me no more. It's like I got everything. But I think that's why God blessed me with the wife that I had. That was my reward, because it was it felt like it came out of left field. My wife Kome, she lived in New York. So at any point in time when I went to visit our mutual friend in New York, she was like, oh, let's go over to my homegirl Kome. So I have a friend Kome. Never did she do that. She never introduced, never brought me around. So I was like, it just so happened to be. So I was like, what a blessing. And it came right on the tail end of me mentoring. So I definitely think that was a major blessing. I'm super thankful for that. One of the things that I've learned now that I've been married for some time, a couple of months now, and about to signify it in August. Some of the things that I did in the past, I thought, oh, that's just a part of when you're outside in the streets or you're outside in the world, I have regrets for. And sometimes I cringe now thinking back, man, I can't believe I was moving like that, because I'm not that type of person anymore. You're supposed to regret sin. It's not supposed to be sin, I'm just moving past it. But it actually made me regret, man, I wish I hadn't have done that. I wish I could call this person and tell them, I can't believe I was moving like that. I apologize. You want to treat your significant other, you want to treat her with the utmost respect. Put her on a pedestal, put a royal red carpet out every time she moves. How would you feel if you saw somebody treat the one that you love now like maybe you used to treat girls back in the day? Start to think of it man, I wish I had never moved like that. And I had to literally repent. Just repent for everything in my past. And it was very humbling, but moving forward, it's allowed me to be a more humble person. I'll never get too high on my horse. No matter what happens, I'll never get too high on my horse now, because I remember I could easily just have some memories and just be humble. And I'm not judging. I can't judge anybody either. I've noticed Diddy's situation has been going on. Everybody's just kicking them and stomping them and kicking them and stomping them. And people, I've looked on social media and watched podcasts, and people call them what a POS. And I'm like, man, what if somebody saw a video of your life and saw all the bad things that you've done? What would they call you if it was put on Front Street for everybody to see? That's why I said, I just got to pray for the brother, because I have empathy. It's changed me as a person. It's matured me.
That's real.
Yo, the perfect reframe, because I was trying to figure out where you were going when you said the regret, but you changed it in the midst of your speech to the fact where you looked at it as, okay, this is what I am no longer going to be anymore.
Yeah.
And the repentance is the changing of the mind. Once you implemented that, it shapes how you are right now and how you treat your significant other. And you pointed out to other brothers, or you're allowing other brothers to learn from your mistakes just by you stating it. Sometimes regret can keep you in a cage. It can keep you in a position of feeling shameful, pitiful, to a point where you may be like, well, I'm never going to change. I'm never going to do that. Until you get into a situation where you're going to be required to change. And based off all the mistakes that you've made, now you have enough evidence to make the decision, say, I'm no longer going to be like that. I'm going to be like this. And once you commit to it, which you have, then life just gets way better, actually. So I appreciate you sharing that aspect of it. Brandon, we're going to move to you as far as fatherhood is concerned. I know that you have shared several testimonies about the things that you've observed just watching your son grow, and the correlation between how God our Father looks at us in retrospect to how you look at your son. Just talk a little bit about that and kind of how it has framed the man that you currently are and still growing into.
Yeah, before I became a father, I've always had that thought and desire to have the mindset of, I want to see how God sees me. I want to see that role. And I've been able to see that role daily. And you got to have that mindset of, this is how God is really doing me, or this is what he could be saying. So for example, my son was running to a ball in the grass. And I was like, stop running. You just walk. You can get it. He heard me, but he didn't want to listen. He wanted to continue to do what he wanted to do. And so he fell. Then he started crying. Then I needed to come pick him up. And of course I was going to pick him up because I'm his father. That's just like us. Whoever's hearing this can put themselves in that position where, you know, God could be calling out to us, whether we can hear him or not. He's talking. Are we choosing to listen? Are we hearing him? If he heard me, it would have been better for him. He didn't know it would be better for him. He just wanted to continue to do what he did. And I had to come pick him up because I love him. Now, he didn't know I was going to come pick him up. Only I know that I'm going to come pick him up. And then, you know, he can listen to me when I say, I'm going to come pick you up whenever you fall. And I can give him those assurances. He's only 2. So that was just one thing. And I was like, man, you're doing the same thing when he did that. Like in those times when I am moving in ways that I know that wouldn't make him happy, because he always wants us to do what makes him happy. You know what I'm saying? And sometimes we want to do what makes us happy, and that kind of goes against what he wants. So it just puts me in a position daily when I'm talking to him, Ari, his name is Arian. When I say, Ari, listen, and then he does it, I'm like, that's you. You know what I'm saying? So it's a constant reminder, and it's a daily reminder, which I need, so that I can stay on the right path, as we all need to stay on the right path. Definitely,
there are a bunch of gems that both of you guys dropped, and equally, I have had a couple conversations in my prayer groups with the brothers that I pray with. But I've observed Ari in several situations and kind of like picked up on those lessons between me and God. And one thing we think about is like, man, we old. The Most High is eternal. He's been here from the beginning, so he's that much older than you are. Right. From the beginning, he's been. Even before the beginning, he was, and he always will be. So we are always children in his sight. In regards to how I would view my nephew, it was like recently at his birthday party at that Kid Zone place, where he was infatuated with doing one thing, and that was jumping on a trampoline. And it didn't matter how many people came around and wanted him to do something else. He was focused on doing that one thing on the trampoline, and he wanted everybody else to watch and observe him enjoy what he was doing on the trampoline. And I looked at that and I was like, what do I have in my life that I enjoy doing that much? And that when people see me, they are proud of the accomplishments and the movement I'm making because I'm doing something I enjoy. So when I thought about that, I was like, it is vitally important to have something in your life that you can enjoy for recreation, because it's not all work and then eat and then sleep. Pay attention to the things that you have in your life that you enjoy, that are recreational, that are good for the soul. And you know what I'm talking about. You know there's good fun and you know there's bad fun. Right. But lean more so to that which is wholesome and watch just what it does for your soul. Another thing I observed is one time you were trying to move him to a whole nother play area, and he ran trying to get over there, but he ran the wrong way. There was a wide opening to get into the area to play, but he ran around the side towards a dead end. And he ran full fledged. It's kind of like that story you were talking about. And you went right behind him. Y'all disappeared behind the wall. And I saw you carry him and bring him back to the proper place to go to where he wanted to go. Sometimes God will redirect your path. Because you're running head first into an area where you think you're going the right way. The verse says there's a way that seems right unto a man, but the end thereof is destruction. So always take pride in the fact that the Father is always going to reroute and direct you if you listen. Because remember, that's what Brandon said. He said his son heard him, but he ain't listen. We got to listen sometimes. Find yourself in the silence and see if you can hear the voice of God. And if you focus hard enough, the word says itself. Knock and the door will be open, seek and ye shall find. But you got to put the effort first into it. And then you will find the Father. Because a lot of people say, God don't talk to me. He don't do this, that, and the third. I was like, well, keep trying because he's there. Right. So I know we're coming up on towards the end of the episode, but this is what I want to do. Raphael, I want you to give like the most powerful piece of advice that is affecting you right now. I know there's tons of things that you could probably draw from, but if you were sitting across or standing in front of an audience of your peers, men and women, what's one powerful thing you can tell them to encourage them to keep going in the area that they're going in, to keep pursuing what they need to pursue, something that's impacted you?
Number one, I would say ignore the FOMO, the fear of missing out, because you can ignore that fear of missing out, then you can really lock in on what you need to. So as long as you don't have that fear of missing out, you're not missing anything, focus on your purpose. The second thing I would say is communication is everything. So even if you have a miscommunication with a friend, your significant other, family member, just be like, hey, I think we may have got off on the wrong foot, or I think you may have took what I said wrong, or I think I may have came off incorrectly. This is what I really meant, and I don't mean no harm because I don't want to put this relationship, I don't want to put any of this in jeopardy. I think communication is key in every relationship.
Vitally important. We always need to watch out for grudges and regrets to keep walls up between us and everybody else, because there's one powerful scripture that got amplified just because of that. God says, don't come to me asking me for anything when you can't even talk to your brother. Exactly. Or you have unforgiveness in your heart. Go make it right with them, then come back to me. Now that says that in the word. So if you throwing up prayers and you ain't getting no answers, search your heart and your mind to see if you have any grudges or any problems with anybody. Maybe there are walls of communication up that you probably could be the person to go and fix. It takes initiative and it takes courage and bravery, but trust me, on the other side of that movement is a relationship that's now fulfilled, that's now budding, and can be rejuvenated to whatever it was, and even more so going forward. Brandon, I want to shift it to you, kind of like the same question. If there's anything right now, any good piece of advice or information that has helped you grow to being a better version of yourself.
Well, yeah, the Bible says, don't worry about tomorrow. Tomorrow has its own troubles. So stay focused on today, see where you can get better at today. We can always be building, right? So we can build mentally, physically, and spiritually. Eat well, make sure all your relationships are strong, put pride to the side and forgive. Because as we forgive, so shall we be forgiven. And then since this is a podcast specifically for life insurance, I want to tell everybody to always get life insurance. Own it for yourself. If you're thinking about entrepreneurship, most people have life insurance through their jobs. So if you only have it through your job, if you quit or you get fired or you retire, chances are your life insurance is going to stop. Therefore, you need to own your own life insurance policy outside of your job. The younger you are, the cheaper it will be. Brad and I have a cousin who I was talking to at a family reunion. He put it off. I was about to reach out to him a year later, comes out that he had cancer. And so now if he put in an application, it would get rejected. So now he does not have that ability to get life insurance and give that tax-free money to his kids. So it's very key to get it. You're passing on, 6 figures instead of passing on $0 to $10,000, which is what the average is, I believe. Raphael probably knows more than me on what the national average is for minorities and leaving an inheritance. So we can definitely do that with life insurance. And I hope everyone has it who is watching this right now. If you don't, you can reach me at bsctramel at IG, and Brad can list my other ways of contact.
Raphael, what about you? I was going to ask you that, so I'm glad you mentioned it, Brandon. What is a good way to contact you if someone's looking for the type of insurance that you sell? And talk a little bit about that also.
So You can reach me at Raphael, Raphael, at legacyempowered.com. And you can shoot me an email and just let me know what you're looking for. I'll either email you back or I can call you right back. It won't take long. Like, just looking to try to get as many people covered as possible, as many young people covered as possible while it's still cheap and affordable, because the older you get, you used to be like, oh man, my bills are already up to my neck and now I can't afford this extra bill coming in. It's better to get it while you're in your 20s and 30s, early 40s.
I'm going to list you guys' contact information in the comment section of this video. We're glad that you joined us here today on the BTonez podcast. As you have seen, it's been another powerful episode with specific gems that are dropped. And if you have the ears to hear, I know that you caught them. But until next time we meet, I pray that y'all bless and keep you. And if you like this type of content, please like and subscribe. And we'll see you on the next go round.